Rafael El Toro Mendez forced Leon Carter to kneel beside the hydraulic lift, while his enforcers laughed at the grease on the black mechanic's hands. Isaiah stood pinned against the office door. Mrs. Ruth Bell clutched her receipt book, and a customer stared down because Rico had threatened the first person who moved. Rafael slapped Leon and called him a broke shop owner with no way out. Leon stayed silent. In the SUV's side mirror, he could see the west roll-up door behind Miguel, and Rico looked away whenever the compressor kicked on. Rafael mistook that calm for defeat. Then one man tore Leon's jacket from the wall. A faded patch fell face up. Metro SWAT, Captain L. Carter. Miguel stopped laughing. Rafael read the name twice, and his smile vanished. He seized Isaiah by the collar, ordered the office door broken, and whispered, "Find the case before he contains us." Leon looked from the patch to frighten people in his garage. Rafael thought he had exposed a broken man's secret. Instead, he had warned Leon that the cartel knew what Captain Carter had once done to their family. If you enjoy stories where arrogant criminals discover too late that they chose the wrong victim, leave a like, subscribe to Wrong Victim Stories, and tell us what city or state you are watching from. Now let's go back to the moment they made their first mistake. 7 hours earlier, Carter's garage had smelled like hot rubber, old coffee, and the citrus cleaner Mrs. Ruth Bell used on the front counter every afternoon, whether the counter needed it or not. The shop sat outside Phoenix in a strip of working-class businesses, where everybody knew which mechanic would pad an estimate and which one would stay late because a nurse needed her car for the morning shift. Leon Carter belonged to the second category. At 51, he moved with the careful economy of a man whose shoulders had carried more than transmissions. He was broad through the chest, gray beginning at his temples, and permanently marked by small burns and dark half-moons beneath his nails. Customers saw a quiet black mechanic who did honest work. They did not see the man who automatically checked reflections in glass, counted exits without turning his head, and never allowed a parked vehicle to block both doors at once. That afternoon, Leon was under a battered blue sedan, explaining to Isaiah why a cheap replacement part could become an expensive problem. Isaiah was 17, long-limbed, impatient, and trying hard not to look impressed by anything his father said. He had been working 3 afternoons a week at the garage since school let out for summer. Leon paid him minimum wage, deducted nothing for the food Isaiah stole from the office refrigerator, and made him sweep the bays twice if he missed the corners. "You don't save people money by giving them the cheapest thing," Leon said from beneath the car. "You save them money by fixing the right thing once." Isaiah rolled a ratchet across his palm. "That's going on a t-shirt?" "No, it's going on your timesheet if you keep talking." Mrs. Bell laughed from the office window. She was 72, wore square glasses on a silver chain, and had kept Leon's book since the year he opened. She had known Isaiah since he was small enough to sleep beneath the desk during late nights. Her laugh made the garage feel less like a building full of metal and more like a place people belonged. The last waiting customer was Thomas Avery, a city bus driver with a dead alternator and the resigned patience of a man who had spent 30 years listening to strangers complain. He sat near the counter with a paper cup of water, watching Isaiah pretend he knew more than he did. At 4:17, a charcoal gray SUV rolled into the lot too fast, braked crooked, and stopped with its left tires on the painted line. The driver remained behind the wheel for 3 seconds. Leon noticed because frightened people often pause before choosing which version of a lie to tell. The man who stepped out was in his 30s, lean, sweat darkening his collar despite the dry air. He gave the name Daniel Vega and said the engine had lost power on the freeway. His eyes moved past Leon toward the office, then toward the rear alley, then back to the street. "You tow it?" Leon asked. "Friend followed me. I'll leave the key." "I need a number." The driver recited one too quickly. Mrs. Bell entered it into the system and frowned when the screen failed to populate an existing customer. The man placed $300 in cash on the counter before anyone had given him an estimate. "Call me when it's ready," he said. "Might be tomorrow," Leon told him. "Tonight would be better." He walked away without asking what might be wrong. A white pickup waited half a block down. The passenger door opened before he reached it. Isaiah watched the truck leave. "That normal?" "No," Leon said. He did not make drama from the answer. He asked Isaiah to photograph the vehicle from all 4 corners, record the mileage, and put the key in the red tag cabinet. Routine mattered most when something felt wrong. While Isaiah worked, Leon crouched near the rear wheel and saw a strip of red cotton tied around the axle. It was a shop rag, knotted tight enough not to fall off, clean enough that it had been placed recently. Carter's garage used blue rags. The towing company 2 blocks over used green. The red marker did not belong to the road or the vehicle. Leon touched nothing. He photographed it where it was. "Dad? Don't crawl under this one. Use the lift later." Isaiah looked at the rag, then at his father. Why would somebody tie that there? Maybe so somebody else could recognize it. Recognize it for what? Leon stood. That's the question. At 4:38, he called the number the driver had provided. A recorded voice announced that the line was not in service. "Mrs." Bell checked the cash under the counterfeit pen. Real bills. Thomas Avery shifted in his chair and said he had seen the same SUV behind a closed warehouse 2 mornings earlier, though he could not swear to it. Leon asked where. Thomas named an industrial road near the freight yards. The location tightened something low in Leon's chest. 15 years earlier, when he still wore a badge, those warehouses had been used by a violent trafficking network to move people, stolen vehicles, and money through a chain of temporary safe houses. Most of that network had been dismantled. Some of it had only changed names. Leon did not tell Isaiah any of that. He told Mrs. Bell to finish the books early. He moved the gray SUV to Bay 3, where the camera covered both doors and the office window had a direct view. He left the vehicle on the ground instead of raising it. Then he walked the exterior of the shop, checked the rear alley, and found nothing except heat lifting from the pavement. At 5:10, while Leon was helping Thomas with the alternator, Isaiah climbed into the SUV to check the warning lights. The dashboard came alive, but the diagnostic port had been modified behind a loose panel. Isaiah knew enough to stop touching wires. He also noticed the cargo floor sat higher on the right side. He pulled back the mat and found 2 mismatched screws in a trim strip. He should have called his father then. Later, Isaiah would replay that choice until it hurt. But he was 17, eager to prove he could solve a problem without Leon hovering over him. He removed the strip, lifted the false floor, and found a black hard case wedged beside the spare tire. The case was not locked. Inside were 6 prepaid phones, wrapped bundles of cash, 3 small ledgers, and a memory card in a plastic sleeve. Isaiah stared at the contents, then shut the lid so fast one phone shifted and struck another with a hard plastic click. He carried the case toward the office. Halfway there, he heard tires turn into the lot. A black pickup stopped across the main entrance. A silver sedan slid along the curb near the west roll-up door. Neither vehicle parked like a customer. They parked like barriers. Isaiah looked through the office glass at Leon. Leon saw the case in his son's hands, saw the vehicles outside, and understood that the suspicious driver had not abandoned the SUV. He had delivered it under pressure, and someone had been tracking it from the moment it reached the lot. "Put that under Mrs. Bell's desk," Leon said, keeping his voice level. "Then stand beside her." Isaiah obeyed. That alone told Mrs. Bell how serious it was. 4 men entered Carter's garage at 5:21. Rafael Mendez came first. He was compact, neatly dressed, and calm in the way cruel men became calm when other people carried the danger for them. The nickname El Toro did not come from his size. It came from the stories about what he did after someone challenged him in public. Behind him came Miguel Arroyo, older than the other enforcers, with watchful eyes and a small scar beneath his left ear. Rico Salazar entered third, restless and smiling, his hand never far from the weapon beneath his shirt. The 4th man, Tomas Rivas, moved to the front counter and turned the deadbolt. Leon lowered the hood of Thomas's sedan. "Shop's closed." Rafael glanced at the SUV in Bay 3. "Not for us. That vehicle was left for repair. It was left by mistake." The words were mild. The arrangement around them was not. Tomas stood between Thomas Avery and the front door. Rico drifted toward the office. Miguel remained near the west bay, where he could see both Leon and the SUV, but not the narrow service corridor beside the parts cage. Leon read those positions before Rafael finished speaking. Thomas was obedient. Rico was impulsive. Miguel understood rooms. Rafael understood people. Rafael held out his hand. "Key." Leon did not move. I need the owner. You have him. Registration says otherwise. A pause. Raphael had expected fear or bargaining, not procedure. His eyes settled on Leon's face with new interest. This is a neighborhood garage, Raphael said. You have insurance. Give me the key. Forget the man who brought it. And tomorrow you replace a lock. That's the easy version. Leon glanced toward the office window. Isaiah stood beside Mrs. Bell, trying to keep his face blank. The hard case was under the desk. Rico followed Leon's glance and smiled. And the difficult version? Leon asked. Raphael stepped closer. The difficult version teaches your son what pride costs. The room changed with that sentence. Isaiah stiffened. Mrs. Bell reached for his wrist beneath the counter. Thomas Avery looked toward Leon, then deliberately lowered his gaze. Leon felt the old machinery inside him wake. Not anger first, but measurement. Distances. Lines of sight. Who was afraid? Who wanted an excuse? Which sound might cover movement? Which door could become a trap? He had spent years trying to silence that part of himself. Now it returned without permission. Key is in the cabinet, Leon said. Rico moved toward the red tag cabinet, found it locked, and looked back. Open it. Leon crossed the bay slowly. Raphael watched his hands. Miguel watched his shoulders. Leon opened the cabinet, removed the SUV key, and placed it on the metal counter between them. He hoped the ease of the concession would move the men toward the vehicle and away from the office. It did not. Raphael picked up the key but kept looking at Isaiah. The driver says something was inside. I haven't inspected it. Your boy has. Isaiah's face betrayed him for less than a second. Raphael saw it. Rico reached the office before Leon could cross half the distance. He grabbed Isaiah by the front of his work shirt and dragged him through the doorway. Mrs. Bell shouted his name. Thomas told her to be quiet. Thomas rose instinctively, and Miguel pushed him back into the chair without taking his eyes off Leon. Let him go, Leon said. Rico pulled Isaiah closer. He found something. He checks vehicles. That's his job. Then he can tell us what he checked. Isaiah looked at his father. Fear shone in his eyes, but beneath it was a question. Do I lie? Leon gave the smallest shake of his head. Do not improvise. Do not challenge. Stay alive. I ran the dash, Isaiah said. That's all. Rico slapped the back of his head. Leon took one step forward. Every weapon in the room seemed to turn toward that step, even the ones not yet visible. Raphael raised one finger. Careful, mechanic. Leon stopped. His face remained still, but Isaiah saw the tendon move in his jaw. Search the office, Raphael told Thomas. Search the vehicle. Search anywhere a frightened boy might hide a case. The first mistake had been bringing the SUV to Carter's garage. The second had been threatening Isaiah in front of a father who knew exactly how panic destroyed a room. The third was Raphael's belief that Leon's stillness meant he had none of the old instincts left. Thomas entered the office and began pulling open drawers. He dumped invoices, pens, spare keys, and Mrs. Bell's peppermint candies onto the floor. Rico kept Isaiah in front of him. Miguel moved to the SUV, opened the rear hatch, and stared at the disturbed cargo mat. Somebody was in here, Miguel said. Raphael looked at Isaiah. Tell me where the case is, and everybody goes home. Leon knew the promise was false. Men who wanted witnesses released did not lock the front door, block the bays, and position a car in the alley. The sedan outside had moved while Raphael was talking. In the reflection of a chrome hubcap, Leon saw its rear quarter near the service entrance. There were now 5 men, not 4. One remained outside. What case? Leon asked. Raphael smiled without warmth. That's the answer a man gives before his family starts paying for it. Rico shoved Isaiah toward the hydraulic lift. The boy stumbled and caught himself on the metal post. Leon saw his right hand close around the edge, saw him fight the instinct to swing. He was brave, but bravery without control could get everyone killed. Isaiah, Leon said. His son looked at him. Hands open. Isaiah slowly released the post. Rico laughed. He trains you like a dog? No, Leon said. I raised him to listen when it matters." The answer irritated Rico because it gave him nothing to dominate. He turned and drove his palm into Leon's chest. Leon stepped back with the impact instead of resisting it. The tool cabinet rattled behind him. Raphael watched closely, measuring whether humiliation would make him reckless. "Kneel," Rico said. Leon remained standing. Rico drew his weapon halfway, enough for everyone to see it. "Mrs. Bell whispered a prayer. Thomas Avery's paper cup slipped from his fingers and rolled across the concrete, leaving a trail of water. "Dad," Isaiah said. Leon lowered himself beside the lift. The movement cost him more than the shove. He had once knelt in ruined rooms to speak to terrified children while armed teams held the perimeter. Now his own son watched criminals force him down in the place Leon had built with 14 years of work. Shame rose hot and immediate. He let it pass through him without choosing for him. Raphael crouched in front of him. "There. Better. Now you're thinking like a man with something to lose." Leon looked past Raphael's shoulder at the SUV's side mirror. The angle showed the west door, Miguel's left side, and part of the office glass. Thomas was searching too fast. Rico's weight rested on his right foot, his attention divided between Isaiah and the pleasure of the scene. The compressor in the utility room cycled every 46 seconds because of a leak Leon had not yet repaired. Each time it started, Rico flinched and looked toward the sound. The overhead lights in Bay 2 had a 3-second delay after the wall switch. The lift beside Leon was raised only 8 inches, enough to create a shadowed space beneath Thomas's sedan, but not enough to crush or trap anyone. None of those details was a plan. Plans came later. For now, they were pieces of a room that had not stopped belonging to him merely because violent men had entered it. Rico saw the old canvas jacket hanging on a peg beside the parts cage. It was faded black, stained at the cuffs, and older than Isaiah. Leon kept it there because it was warm on winter mornings and because he had forgotten, or pretended to forget, what remained inside the lining. "Look at this," Rico said. He tore it down and held it up. Mechanic got himself a uniform. He thrust one arm into the sleeve, mocking Leon's broad stance. Thomas laughed from the office. Miguel did not. He was looking at Leon's face, perhaps noticing that Leon had not looked at the gun, the cash drawer, or the men. He had looked at the civilians. Rico shook the jacket. A loose seam opened at the inner pocket. Something cloth and rectangular slid free, struck the concrete, and landed face up near Leon's knee. Metro SWAT, Captain L. Carter. The patch was faded at the edges, its dark blue nearly gray. Isaiah had never seen it. Mrs. Bell had once, in an old box Leon asked her not to open again. Thomas Avery leaned forward before remembering the gun. Rico glanced at it and laughed. "You buy this at a flea market?" Miguel's expression changed first. His eyes narrowed at the lettering, then lifted to Leon's face. A memory moved behind them. Not a clear one yet, but enough to drain the amusement. Raphael reached down and picked up the patch. "L. Carter," he read. He turned it over. The stitching on the back showed years of wear. This had not been bought yesterday. He studied Leon more carefully, taking in the old scar near his eyebrow, the calm breathing, the way his knees were positioned to rise without scrambling. "Captain Leon Carter," Miguel said quietly. The name altered the air. Raphael looked at him. "You know it." Miguel did not answer right away. He was back somewhere else, in a dark house with shattered windows and commands coming through a loudspeaker. Leon could see it because fear often arrived as distance before it arrived as motion. "There was an operation," Miguel said. "Years ago. Southside safe houses. Mendez people." Raphael's jaw tightened. His cousin Esteban had been taken alive in that operation, along with account books, vehicles, and enough testimony to dismantle a network Raphael's family had spent years building. Esteban used to describe the commander who refused to storm the final house even after gunfire, the captain who turned off every escape one by one and waited until the armed men understood there was nowhere left to run. Esteban never remembered the officers who handcuffed him. He remembered the voice that told him the house was contained. Raphael looked back at Leon. "You," he said. Leon did not respond. Raphael's surprise became anger because the room had witnessed it. He grabbed Leon by the collar and shoved him against the tool cabinet. Metal drawers slammed. Rico laughed again, louder than necessary, trying to restore the balance the patch had disturbed. Old man used to play police, Rico said. Captain, Miguel corrected before he could stop himself. Rico turned. What? Miguel kept his eyes on Leon. He was a captain. The distinction mattered to Miguel. It mattered too much. Rafael forced Leon back to his knees. Then you understand what happens when men refuse simple instructions. Where is the case? I don't know. Rafael slapped him. Isaiah surged forward. Rico caught him and twisted his arm behind his back. Say it again, Rafael told Leon. Blood warmed the inside of Leon's lip. I don't know. Rafael studied him for deceit. Leon gave him the truth in the narrowest possible form. Leon did not know exactly where the case was now. Isaiah had placed it beneath the desk, but Thomas had entered the office and moved furniture. Mrs. Bell, practical even in terror, might have shifted it with her foot. An answer could be true and still protect someone. Rafael rose. Break the office door. Tear out the cabinets. If we don't have it in 5 minutes, start with the boy. The patch remained in his hand. He folded it once, then caught himself and opened it again, unwilling to show disrespect to an object he had begun to fear. Leon saw that, and the first shape of a strategy appeared. Rafael needed control in front of his men. Miguel's memory threatened that control. Rico's impulsiveness threatened everyone. Thomas would follow whichever voice sounded certain. The unseen man outside depended on updates. Leon did not need to overpower 4 armed criminals. He needed to keep them from functioning as one crew long enough for help to understand the room. But help did not know there was a room to understand. The shop's panic button was beneath the front counter, 2 steps from Thomas. The office phone was on the desk he was searching. Leon's cell phone lay in a tray near Bay 1. Isaiah's phone was in his backpack, now under Rico's boot. The cameras recorded to a locked unit in the old office, but the internet connection had been unreliable all week. Leon had planned to call the provider Monday. There was no clean way to send an alarm. Then he remembered the tow request board. Carter's Garage used a voice-to-text dispatch line when a customer needed a vehicle moved after hours. The system sent recordings and transcripts to several contracted dispatchers. One of those dispatchers was Calvin Reed, a man Leon had known casually for years. Another was monitored by the city tow liaison after a string of stolen vehicle complaints. Lieutenant Dana Brooks had once told Leon that unusual phrases in a recorded request could flag review. She had been half joking. Leon had not forgotten. The problem was reaching the shop phone without making the call look like a warning. Rafael pointed toward the SUV. Get it running. You have the key, Leon said. It lost power. Fix it. Then I need tools. Rafael looked at Miguel, who gave a reluctant nod. A mechanic needing tools made sense. More important, Rafael wanted the SUV operational before police or a rival crew found it. The hard case mattered, but so did the vehicle's ability to leave. Rico hauled Leon to his feet and pushed him toward Bay 3. Isaiah remained beside the lift under Thomas's watch. Mrs. Bell stood in the office doorway, one hand pressed to her chest. Leon opened the hood. He did not begin with the engine. He checked the driver's side mirror, the rear-view mirror, and the polished surface of a cabinet door. Through those reflections, he saw Rafael near the office, Miguel at the SUV's rear, Rico 2 paces behind Leon, Tomas near Isaiah, and the 5th man crossing briefly behind the west door glass. Battery test, Leon said. Need the cart. Rico kicked the rolling diagnostic cart toward him. It struck the tire. Leon bent to connect the leads, using the motion to look beneath the chassis. The red shop rag still hung from the axle. Miguel noticed him looking. What is that? Miguel asked. Rafael came closer. Marker, Leon said. For what? Not mine. Miguel crouched, saw the clean red cloth, and stood quickly. Pick up mark. Rafael's head turned toward him. You sure? Some crews mark cars so a tow driver knows which one to take. The statement introduced a new doubt. If the vehicle had been marked before reaching Carter's garage, then someone besides Rafael's men might have been following it. The nervous driver might have been working for 2 sides, or a tow dispatcher might have directed the SUV here for a reason. Rafael's phone buzzed. He read the screen and walked toward the front office, speaking too quietly for the civilians, but not quietly enough for Leon, who had spent years separating voices from machinery. "It is here," Raphael said. "We're searching." A pause. "No, Reed. Nobody called police. Keep watching the dispatch feed." Calvin Reed. The name landed harder than the slap. Leon kept his hands on the battery leads. Calvin was not merely an ordinary dispatcher who might receive a coded warning. He was part of the problem. If Leon used the tow line carelessly, the cartel would hear it before Dana Brooks did. Rico leaned close. "You look worried now." Leon met his eyes. "Battery's fine." "That's not what I asked." "It's what I found." Rico's smile disappeared. He wanted Leon emotionally present in the humiliation. Leon's refusal to perform fear offended him. Behind them, Thomas dragged a filing cabinet away from the office wall. The hard case was no longer beneath the desk. Leon saw Mrs. Bell glance toward the supply closet, then immediately at the floor. She had moved it. Her courage frightened him because brave civilians sometimes took risks trained people would never allow. "Ruth," Leon said without looking at her. "Thomas's invoice is on the tow clipboard. I need the reference number." It sounded like ordinary shop business. Mrs. Bell understood that Leon wanted a reason to use the dispatch system. She also understood that Calvin might be listening. Her answer had to be useful without exposing the attempt. "Reference number is 614, she said. "Same as the Price account." Mason Price's badge number had ended in 614. Mrs. Bell remembered because she had entered it on a memorial donation years earlier. Leon felt the old grief open like a door. Raphael looked between them. "Who's Price?" "Old customer," Mrs. Bell said. Leon knew she was lying. Raphael did not. "Thomas needs a tow," Leon said. "Alternator won't hold. If you want the bay clear, let me request it." Raphael considered. A tow truck arriving was a risk, but a disabled sedan blocked the easiest path from Bay 3 to the west door. Moving it would improve the cartel's escape. Calvin Reed controlled dispatch and could delay or redirect the driver. Raphael nodded. "Make the request. Speaker on. No names except the customer." Rico pushed Leon toward the office phone. This was the first opening Leon had been given, and it came through a line already compromised. He had to warn Dana Brooks in words Calvin Reed would hear, words Raphael would accept, and words only someone familiar with old Metro SWAT language would understand. As he crossed the garage, Leon noticed Miguel shift away from the west door, giving himself more distance from Leon. The patch had changed him. It had also changed Raphael. Raphael kept one hand around the cloth, as if it were evidence from a trial he had hoped never to revisit. Leon reached the phone. Thomas stood beside him. Rico remained behind him. Isaiah was 6 feet away, breathing fast but steady. "Mrs." Bell had positioned herself closer to the supply closet, physically blocking it with her small body. Leon pressed the dispatch button. A recorded voice asked for the shop code. "Carter Garage, code 71. Tow for a blue sedan, Bay 2. Alternator failure." The system asked for destination and access notes. Leon looked at Raphael, then at the office window, where the reflection showed the black pickup blocking the entrance. "Destination is East Valley Auto Electric," Leon said. "Access from the west only. 4 corners occupied. Keep the center clean. Family in the box." Rico frowned. "What does that mean?" Leon did not look at him. "Tow instruction. 4 corners occupied means vehicles around the bay. Family in the box means personal items stay inside." The explanation was plausible. It was also an old containment phrase. 4 corners occupied. Keep the center clean. Family in the box. Dana Brooks had heard Leon say it during training, and once during the worst night of both their careers. The dispatch voice asked for a requested time. "Hold outside until the lights cycle twice," Leon said. Raphael stepped forward. "Why outside?" "Truck can't clear the pickup in front. Driver should call before entering." The system confirmed the request. Somewhere across the city, a transcript entered Calvin Reed's queue. Somewhere else, if the liaison filter still worked, the unusual language created a silent flag. Leon replaced the receiver. Raphael grabbed his shoulder. "You trying to be clever?" I'm trying to move a car. Raphael held the patch up between them. Esteban said Captain Carter was always trying to be clever. For the first time, Isaiah understood that the cloth was not a costume or a relic. It was a name that had lived in dangerous men's memories longer than he had been alive. Who is Esteban? Isaiah asked. Raphael turned toward him. A man your father put in a cage. Leon spoke before Isaiah could. He was a man who put people in rooms they couldn't leave. The court decided the rest. Miguel's eyes moved toward Leon. That sentence sounded like the captain he remembered. Raphael struck Leon in the stomach. Leon folded, caught the edge of the desk, and stayed on his feet. Isaiah shouted. Rico drew his weapon fully this time and pressed it near the boy's ribs. No more corrections, Raphael said. No more shop codes. You fix the SUV. We find the case. Then I decide who leaves. Leon straightened slowly. Pain sharpened the room. He looked at Isaiah, then Mrs. Bell, then Thomas Avery. Nobody had been rescued yet. The warning might never reach Dana. Calvin might erase it. Raphael's men were getting more frightened, and frightened armed men were often worse than confident ones. Then the office computer chimed. A tow request had been accepted. The dispatcher name on the screen was Calvin Reed, and the estimated arrival time was 6 minutes. Calvin Reed had not accepted the request because he intended to help Thomas Avery. He accepted it because an unassigned tow truck at Carter's garage gave him a legitimate reason to watch the street, control the arrival time, and keep police-linked drivers away. His confirmation included no company name, only a unit number Leon did not recognize. Raphael read the screen and relaxed slightly. Good. The car moves. We move. Leon did not share the relief. Calvin's 6-minute estimate meant someone was already close. The fifth man outside might be driving the truck, or Calvin had redirected a cartel-friendly operator. Either way, the west door would soon be occupied by another unknown vehicle. SUV won't lose power from the alternator, Leon said. Need to scan it. Raphael pointed toward Bay 3. Do it. Leon returned to the vehicle with Rico behind him. He connected the diagnostic reader and waited for the screen. The engine fault was real but minor, likely caused by a loosened sensor connection. Someone had wanted the SUV to appear disabled without making it impossible to move. The nervous driver had been given a reason to seek help, or had created one himself. Leon opened the fuse panel, then paused. A thin scrape marked the edge of the plastic, the same panel Isaiah had noticed. He closed it without touching the altered wiring. How long? Raphael asked. 10 minutes. You have 4. Then you have an SUV that may quit in the street. Raphael stepped close enough for Leon to smell mint on his breath. You used to command men. You think that makes you difficult to command now? No. What does? Leon looked at him. Knowing when the order won't work. Raphael's eyes hardened, but Miguel interrupted before he could strike again. Toro, Miguel said, we should leave the vehicle. Take the case and go. Rico laughed. He's scared of a patch. I'm scared of what follows the man wearing it. He's not wearing it. He's on his knees in a garage. Miguel ignored Rico. The South Mountain House had 6 exits. Carter closed all 6 and waited. Nobody saw the teams move. Esteban thought he had a way out until the door opened and there was another shield. Leon remembered that house. He remembered children in an upstairs bedroom, a grandmother behind a laundry machine, and Esteban Mendez shouting that he would burn the place before surrendering. Leon had not stormed the building. He had slowed it down. He had moved neighbors away, cut off escape routes, opened a line of communication, and waited until one frightened gunman decided he wanted to live more than he wanted to impress Esteban. Everyone in the house survived. The network did not. Raphael heard the memory as accusation. My cousin spent 12 years in prison because of him. Your cousin spent 12 years because he kept families in locked rooms, Leon said. Rico struck him across the back with the weapon. Leon went to one knee. Isaiah pulled against Thomas's grip. Mrs. Bell closed her eyes but did not move from the closet. Raphael crouched beside Leon again. You like saving families, Captain. Then save yours. Tell me where the case is. For one dangerous second, Leon saw not Raphael but another man in another building. Mason Price stood beside him in black armor, visor raised, rainwater running off his helmet. They had been outside a stucco house where a father held his wife and two daughters in a rear bedroom. The father was desperate, armed, and losing contact with reality. Mason had said the back window was wrong. Leon had known it too. The window opened toward a narrow yard with no cover and a neighboring wall that trapped sound. But a child screamed. Leon authorized movement before the containment ring was fully settled. The family lived. Mason did not. The memory never arrived as a complete scene. It came as fragments, a hallway light, a door rebounding, Mason's hand on Leon's shoulder, the terrible quiet after the radio call. The official review found the decision reasonable. Leon did not. Reasonable was a word people used when they wanted the dead to stop asking questions. He left Metro SWAT 8 months later. He told Isaiah, who was 2, that his father fixed cars now. As the boy grew, Leon kept the explanation simple. Police work had taken too much time. The garage was better. The badge, shield, commendations, and photographs went into the locked office. The patch remained in the jacket because Mason had sewn the loose edge before their final operation, laughing that a captain should not look ragged in front of cameras. Leon had kept the jacket and hidden the reason. Now Raphael held the patch like a blade aimed backward through time. "I don't know where the case is," Leon said. Raphael stood. "Then your son knows." Outside, an engine rumbled toward the west door. A tow truck stopped in the alley, its amber lights dark. The driver did not honk or call. He simply waited where Calvin had told him to wait. At the same moment, 3 miles away, Lieutenant Dana Brooks sat at a precinct desk reviewing a vehicle theft bulletin when an automated flag appeared on her screen. The words were ordinary enough to anyone else. 4 corners occupied. Keep the center clean. Family in the box. Dana stared at them for 2 seconds, then opened the audio. She knew Leon's voice immediately. 15 years had changed it, made it rougher and quieter, but not the cadence. Leon never wasted words under pressure. The phrase came from a containment exercise they had taught together. 4 corners occupied meant armed control points. Keep the center clean meant civilians had to be protected from crossfire and panic. Family in the box meant hostages inside the structure. The request listed Carter's garage. Dana stood so fast her chair struck the wall. She did not announce a hostage situation over an open channel. Leon had chosen a tow line because someone might be monitoring ordinary police traffic or the garage itself. Dana called the watch commander, requested a quiet perimeter 2 blocks out, and asked cyber support to preserve the dispatch routing before anyone touched it. Then she pulled up the shop camera portal Leon had shared years earlier after burglaries in the area. The main feed was offline. One thumbnail from the alley camera refreshed every 30 seconds. It showed the rear of a silver sedan, part of a tow truck, and a red blur beneath the gray SUV visible through the open bay. Dana zoomed in. The blur could have been a rag. It could have been nothing. She saved the image. "No sirens," she told the first responding supervisor. "No marked units inside 2 blocks. We have civilians, unknown weapons, and a compromised tow channel. Treat every arrival as observed." "You sure it's Carter?" "I'm sure enough not to scare whoever made him send that phrase." At the garage, Calvin's driver stepped down from the tow truck. He was the 5th man Leon had seen in reflections, a heavy-set enforcer named Luis who had changed shirts and put on a reflective vest. He carried a clipboard but no tow chains. The disguise was meant for distant cameras, not mechanics. Raphael opened the west door just high enough to let him duck inside. Luis whispered something. Raphael's gaze snapped toward the street. "Any police?" Miguel asked. "Nothing," Luis said. "Reed says the request only hit his board." Leon heard that and understood Dana might not have received the alert. He also heard the uncertainty in Luis's voice. Calvin had said only his board, but he could not know what city filters copied automatically. That uncertainty was another crack. "Move the blue sedan," Raphael ordered. "Truck can't take it from that angle," Leon said. Luis looked at the west door and then at the car. He knew Leon was right. The sedan sat nose in, with Bay 3's SUV blocking the necessary turn. To tow it cleanly, they would have to move the SUV or raise the west door fully, exposing the interior to the alley. "Push it," Rico said. Steering locks without the key, Leon said. Thomas Avery lifted one hand slowly. Keys in my pocket. Thomas searched him and took it. Leon watched the exchange. Thomas's breathing had become shallow. His skin looked gray around the mouth. The man was not merely frightened. He might be approaching a cardiac event. He needs to sit back, Leon said. Rico shoved Thomas upright. He can push. He can't. Everybody can push. Not if he drops. Rico stepped toward Leon. You giving orders again? I'm telling you what happens next. Thomas swayed. Mrs. Bell left the office doorway despite Thomas warning her back. She crossed to the customer and pressed 2 fingers to his wrist. His pulse is racing, she said. He has medication in his bag. Raphael looked irritated, not concerned. A sick hostage complicated movement and could draw emergency services. Give it to him. Thomas found a small bottle in Thomas's bag and handed it to Mrs. Bell. Leon used the distraction to step between Rico and Isaiah. Not enough to look defiant, only enough to change the geometry. Rico noticed and shoved him aside. Stay where I put you. Leon went with the shove, landing near the wall controls for the lift. His left shoulder struck the panel. He did not touch the switches. He memorized their position by feel. Isaiah watched him. He knew his father well enough to recognize when Leon's clumsiness was not clumsy. The realization steadied him. His father was not waiting helplessly. He was arranging seconds. Raphael ordered Miguel and Luis to search the supply closet. Mrs. Bell blocked the door. Cleaning chemicals in there. Move. You spill them, you'll ruin half the inventory. Rico laughed. She thinks we care. Leon met Mrs. Bell's eyes. Her face was pale. She had hidden the case behind the shelves, and she knew the search would expose it. Ruth, Leon said, let them work. The tone carried more than permission. Do not become the reason they hurt you. Mrs. Bell stepped aside. Miguel opened the closet. Buckets, oil filters, paper towels, and boxes crowded the narrow space. The black case sat behind a stack of windshield washer fluid, partly covered by an old drop cloth. Miguel began moving boxes. Isaiah looked at Leon. Leon gave no signal because there was no safe move. Sometimes containment meant accepting that evidence would be lost so people could live. The case could expose a trafficking route. It could also get Isaiah killed if Leon treated it as more important than his son. Then tires squealed outside the front entrance. The nervous driver, the man who had called himself Daniel Vega, ran into the lot and struck the locked glass door with both hands. His face was bruised. One sleeve was torn. He shouted something no one could hear through the thick glass. Every cartel man turned toward him except Miguel, who kept one eye on Leon. Raphael swore. He was supposed to be gone. Luis moved toward the door. The driver saw him and backed away, raising both hands. He shouted again, louder. They're coming for the car, Mrs. Bell said, reading his lips. Raphael unlocked the door just enough for Luis to drag the man inside. The driver fell to the concrete. Blood marked his lower lip, but he was conscious. I did what Reed said, he gasped. I left it here. I didn't know the boy would find it. Calvin Reed had directed him to Carter's garage. Raphael's control slipped for the first time. He kicked the driver in the ribs and demanded to know who else was coming. The man curled around the pane. A second crew, he said. They think I took the case. They followed the marker. Miguel looked toward the red rag beneath the axle. The rag was not merely a pickup mark. It was a claim. Someone had tagged the SUV before the nervous driver reached the shop, and Calvin had routed the vehicle to a place where Raphael's crew could recover it without attracting attention. But another group had seen the mark or placed it themselves. The garage was no longer threatened by one crew. It was the meeting point of 2 competing expectations, both focused on the same vehicle. Raphael grabbed the driver by the hair. Who marked it? I don't know, I swear. Reed said drive until the warning light came on, then call the shop number he gave me. He said the mechanic wouldn't ask questions. Leon looked at Raphael. He lied about that part. Rico raised his weapon toward Leon. You think this is funny? No, I think your dispatcher chose my garage because he thought nobody would notice a marked axle, a false number, and a stage fault. Miguel stopped moving boxes. Raphael's attention shifted from the case to the larger betrayal. "Reed works for me," Raphael said. "Then why send a second crew to the same marker?" It was an inference, not proof, but it landed because Raphael already feared it. Calvin might be selling the route to more than one organization. He might be using Carter's garage as neutral ground and planning to let the crews destroy each other. He might simply be careless. Any possibility weakened Raphael's faith in the information coming through his phone. The device buzzed again. Calvin's message said the street was clear. At that exact moment, the nervous driver looked through the office blinds and whispered, "No, it isn't." Across the road, a dark van had stopped beside the laundromat. Its windows were tinted. No one got out. Dana Brooks's quiet perimeter had arrived in unmarked vehicles, but the driver could not know whether the van held police or the rival crew he feared. Neither could Raphael. "Close everything," Raphael ordered. Luis dropped the west door. Thomas locked the front. Rico hit the main wall switch, and both roll-up doors descended with a mechanical roar. Bay 3 darkened as the metal panels blocked the evening light. The garage became a sealed box full of frightened people, armed men, a hidden case, and one former SWAT captain who understood exactly what sealed boxes did to panic. Raphael seized Isaiah by the collar and pulled him against his chest. "From now on, the boy stays with me." Leon felt the old hallway return. Mason's hand, a child screaming. The temptation to move before the room was ready. He forced himself to breathe. This time, he would not let urgency choose the moment. With the doors down, the compressor sounded louder. It started, filled the utility line with a rising metallic growl, and stopped. In the silence that followed, everyone heard Thomas Avery trying to control his breathing. Raphael pulled Isaiah toward Bay 3. "Open the vehicle. Show me where you found the case." Isaiah looked at Leon. "Do what he says," Leon told him. Rico smirked. "Captain gives permission." Leon ignored him. His attention stayed on Isaiah's feet, Raphael's grip, Miguel's position, and the office reflection. The boy was frightened enough to shake, but he moved slowly. That mattered. Sudden motion invited frightened men to invent threats. Isaiah opened the rear hatch and lifted the cargo mat. The false floor stood exposed. Raphael saw the empty compartment and tightened his arm around Isaiah's neck. "Where?" "I put it in the office." "Where in the office?" Isaiah's eyes flicked toward the supply closet. Miguel followed the glance. So did Rico. Rico shoved past Mrs. Bell and entered the closet. Boxes crashed. Plastic bottles rolled across the floor. He kicked aside the drop cloth and found the hard case. His shout of triumph changed the crew's attention all at once. Raphael turned toward him. Tomas stepped closer. Luis moved away from the west door. Miguel took one instinctive pace back, as if finding the case meant the patch could finally stop mattering. Rico placed the case on the workbench and opened it. The phones, money, ledgers, and memory card were still there. He lifted one ledger and flipped through pages of dates, initials, tow numbers, and coded vehicle descriptions. "We got it," he said. The nervous driver groaned from the floor. "That's why they're coming." Raphael looked toward the dark van through a narrow strip of front glass. It had not moved. "Luis, bring the truck to the west door," Raphael said. "Miguel, take the case. Tomas, keep the old people down. Rico, bring the boy." The roles sounded decisive, but Leon saw the flaw. Raphael had divided the crew's attention between escape, evidence, hostages, and the unknown outside. He had not assigned anyone to watch Leon because he believed the kneeling, the blows, and Isaiah's capture had broken the former captain's influence. That belief was now the most dangerous object in the room. Leon spoke to Thomas Avery. "Can you walk?" Rico turned. "Nobody asked you." "He'll collapse if you make him push the car." "Then he collapses." "And an ambulance gets called." Raphael hesitated. Leon pressed no further. A good suggestion became suspicious when repeated. Mrs. Bell helped Thomas sit against the base of the office wall, farther from the bays. Leon had been moving civilians by inches all evening. Thomas from the open counter to the wall, Mrs. Bell from the closet toward the office corner, the nervous driver away from the west door. None of it looked like movement when it happened. Together, it created a protected pocket behind the concrete block wall of the old office. Outside, Dana Brooks watched the alley camera freeze on a frame of the doors closing. She had 6 officers placed where they could see exits without crowding them, a tactical team staging farther away, and emergency medical personnel waiting behind a grocery store. She still had no direct communication with Leon. Then one of the prepaid phones inside the hard case began to ring. The sound startled Rico. He nearly dropped the ledger. Raphael took the phone and answered without speaking. A distorted voice asked, "Do you have the package?" Raphael looked at the nervous driver. "Who is this?" The caller laughed once. "You know who marked the car. Open the west door and send it out. Keep what you found if you want. We only need the card." The memory card mattered more than the cash or ledgers. That told Leon it likely contained names, images, or route records. It also told him the caller could see enough of the shop to know the doors were closed. "Where are you?" Raphael asked. "Close enough to watch your mechanic make you nervous." Raphael looked at Leon. The call ended. Miguel whispered, "We should destroy the phones and leave on foot." "Through which door?" Leon asked. Miguel looked at him before realizing he had accepted the question. "Shut up," Raphael said. Leon lowered his eyes. The answer had already been delivered. Every door was observed by somebody. Raphael's crew had arrived believing they controlled the garage. Now they feared police, a rival group, Calvin Reed, and Leon himself. Containment did not begin with walls. It began when people stopped trusting the exits. Rico noticed Miguel's unease and became more aggressive to hide his own. He dragged Isaiah toward the center of Bay 2 and pressed the weapon against his side. "He keeps doing that," Rico said. "He keeps talking, and everybody starts thinking." Raphael's gaze sharpened. "Then stop letting him talk." Rico struck Leon across the face. Leon fell beside the low hydraulic lift. Pain flashed white through his head. He tasted blood again. Isaiah cried out, and Raphael tightened his grip to hold the boy back. "Stay down," Rico said. Leon stayed down. From the floor, he could see more than Rico understood. The low space beneath Thomas's sedan created a dark horizontal channel to the far side of Bay 2. The SUV's mirror still held the west door. A puddle of water from Thomas's dropped cup had spread near the lift controls. The rolling diagnostic cart rested with one wheel against the SUV tire. Overhead, the delayed lights in Bay 2 hummed. The compressor gauge on the wall climbed toward its automatic cycle. He also saw the memory card sleeve half out of the case, close to the edge of the workbench. Evidence could disappear in one frightened hand. Leon had spent years regretting a rescue where he moved too quickly. He would not turn this moment into revenge, and he would not sacrifice civilians for proof. But if the room offered a way to protect both, he would take it. Leon lifted his head. "Raphael." Raphael stared at him. "The tow truck can't pull the sedan with the SUV there. Move the SUV forward 6 feet, angle it left. Then the truck can reach Bay 2 without opening the door all the way." Luis nodded before Raphael answered. It was true. The suggestion seemed to serve their escape. Raphael ordered Miguel into the SUV. Miguel did not move. "What?" Raphael said. "I don't want to sit in front of him." Rico laughed, but the laugh broke in the middle. Miguel pointed at Leon. "You don't understand. At the safe house, he kept telling us where to move. Every place he told us to stand felt safer. By the time Esteban saw it, we had separated ourselves." Raphael looked at the vehicle, then at Leon. The strategy was visible now, but visibility did not erase the physical problem. The sedan still blocked the path. The SUV still had to move. The west door still had to open at least part way. "Luis drives," Raphael said. "Miguel watches Carter." Luis climbed into the SUV and started it. The stage sensor fault made the engine stumble, then settle. Leon had not repaired it. Raphael heard the rough idle and glared. "You said 10 minutes. You gave me 4. Luis eased the vehicle forward. Its mirror passed close to the diagnostic cart and pushed it sideways. The cart rolled into the painted center lane, exactly where Leon had predicted, creating a narrow obstruction between Rico and the office pocket. Rico kicked it aside. The wheel caught in the water and turned. The cart spun farther than he expected, striking the wall switch. Bay 2 went dark. Not completely. Light from Bay 1 in the office cut thin shapes through the darkness, but the sudden change made every armed man react. Rico jerked toward the switch. Thomas raised his weapon toward the office. Miguel stepped behind the SUV. Raphael pulled Isaiah down. Leon did not attack. He used the 3-second delay. "Down, Ruth," he said. Mrs. Bell pulled Thomas Avery and the nervous driver behind the office wall. Leon rolled beneath the raised edge of Thomas's sedan, passing through the dark channel to the far side of Bay 2. When the lights returned, he was no longer beside the lift. Rico shouted and turned in a full circle. "Where is he?" Miguel saw movement in the SUV mirror. "Other side." Leon rose behind the sedan, not charging anyone, only placing a vehicle between himself and the guns. He reached the office door and slammed it closed. Mrs. Bell turned the old thumb lock. The civilians were now behind the block wall in a locked steel core door. Isaiah was still outside. Raphael dragged him toward Bay 3, using him as a shield. "Open that door, Carter." Leon stepped to the office window where Raphael could see him, but Rico did not have a clean line past the SUV. He raised both empty hands. "Let Isaiah enter first." "You think you're negotiating?" "I think you need the west door open, the case carried, the SUV moving, and someone watching outside. You don't have enough men to do all of it while holding him." Raphael glanced at his crew. Luis was in the SUV. Miguel covered Leon. Thomas watched the office. Rico held the hard case but kept looking toward the lights. Leon had named the truth Raphael was trying not to see. "You come out," Raphael said. The boy goes in. Mrs. Bell gripped Leon's sleeve from behind. "Don't." Leon looked at Isaiah. The boy's face was wet with sweat. He gave a tiny nod, brave and frightened at the same time. "Open the door when he reaches it," Leon told Mrs. Bell. He stepped out with his hands visible. Raphael shoved Isaiah forward. The boy ran. Rico swung his weapon toward him. Miguel snapped, "Don't." The command came from fear of Leon, not concern for Isaiah, but it saved a fraction of a second. Isaiah reached the office. Mrs. Bell opened the door and pulled him inside. Leon now stood alone in the bay. Raphael pressed his weapon beneath Leon's chin. "You traded yourself for a boy. That's what fathers do. That's what weak men do." Leon looked at the hard case in Rico's hands. "Then leave." The lack of resistance unsettled Raphael more than a threat would have. He wanted Captain Carter to fight so he could defeat the legend in front of Miguel. Leon refused to give him that story. Outside, Dana saw the west door rise 8 inches. A pair of boots appeared beneath it, then the front of the tow truck. Her team held position. A rushed approach could turn the narrow opening into a firing line. She needed confirmation that civilians were protected and the hostage had moved. Inside, Leon heard a faint vibration from the office. Isaiah had retrieved his phone from the backpack after Rico moved it. The boy could not safely call, but he had activated the garage's smart light app. Bay 1 blinked once, paused, then blinked again. Hold outside until the lights cycle twice. Dana's observer saw the flashes through the narrow front windows and reported them. Dana understood. The warning was not an instruction to enter. It was confirmation that Leon was still communicating and that the timeline had changed. She opened a direct channel to the tactical supervisor. "We wait for a protected movement. Nobody forces the doors." Inside, Raphael ordered Luis to raise the west door halfway. Luis used the wall chain because the motor switch was near Leon. Metal climbed with a rattling thunder. Evening light spread across the floor. The tow truck waited in the alley, angled badly. Beyond it, the silver sedan blocked part of the exit. Calvin's arrangement had created congestion, not escape. "Move the sedan," Raphael told Tomas. Tomas headed toward Thomas Avery's car with the key. Leon watched Miguel. Miguel watched Leon. Rico stood at the workbench with the open case. Raphael remained close enough to control Leon, but not close enough to control the others. The compressor kicked on. Rico glanced toward the utility room, exactly as Leon had observed in the hook. At the same instant, Isaiah used the light app again. Bay 3 went dark. Then Bay 1. The garage did not become black. It became layered, reflections shifting across windows and mirrors. Luis in the SUV panicked and tapped the accelerator. The vehicle lurched forward, nudging the diagnostic cart into Tomas's path. Tomas stumbled against the sedan. Miguel turned toward the noise. Rafael's weapon moved a few inches away from Leon. Leon acted only to protect. He caught Rafael's wrist with both hands, redirected it away from the office, and drove his shoulder into Rafael's center. They struck the side of the SUV and fell behind its front wheel, hidden from Rico. Leon did not chase the weapon when it slid beneath the vehicle. He pinned Rafael's arm and shouted one word. Down! Mrs. Bell pulled Isaiah and Thomas lower behind the office wall. The nervous driver covered his head. Miguel dropped instinctively, the old command reaching him through memory before pride could resist. Thomas crouched behind the sedan. Rico did not. He fired toward movement and struck the concrete tool cabinet, sending sparks and metal fragments across the bay. The shot gave Dana the confirmation she had been trying to avoid and preparing to use. The west door was halfway open. The civilians were in the office pocket. One gunman was visible near the workbench. Her team moved under lawful command, using vehicles in the building itself as cover, announcing police presence from outside without rushing blindly into the garage. Police! Put the weapons down! Rico spun toward the west door. Miguel shouted at him to stop. Luis abandoned the SUV and tried to run toward the alley, but the tow truck and silver sedan narrowed the route. Officers intercepted him outside. Tomas dropped his weapon beside the sedan and raised his hands. Rafael fought beneath Leon, furious now, not controlled. You planned this. Leon held him without striking. I contained it. The phrase broke something in Rafael. It was Esteban's old nightmare spoken in the same calm voice. Rico grabbed the hard case and ran toward the front lobby. The locked glass door stopped him. He turned, saw police at the west opening, and seized the nervous driver through the office doorway. Before Mrs. Bell could close it, he pulled the man against him and pressed the weapon near his neck. Back up, Rico shouted. Everybody back up. The room froze again. Leon released one hand from Rafael long enough to push the fallen weapon farther beneath the SUV. He looked at Rico, then at the office window, then at Isaiah. His son's face was visible behind Mrs. Bell's shoulder. This was the point where old guilt tried to become command. Mason had died after Leon chose urgency over a settled perimeter. Rico was unstable. The hostage was terrified. Officers were present. The evidence was in Rico's other hand. Every instinct screamed to finish the problem before it changed. Leon did the harder thing. He stopped moving. Rico, he said, shut up. You're holding two things. You can only protect one. Rico tightened his arm around the driver and clutched the hard case. I said shut up. Put the case down. Keep the man between you and the door if that's what you think you need. Dana heard Leon through the open bay and ordered her team to hold. His words did not teach Rico how to escape. They gave him a smaller choice that reduced immediate danger. Rafael hissed beneath Leon. He's using you. Rico looked at Rafael. That was the wrong direction. The nervous driver twisted, not to fight, but because his knees buckled. The hard case slipped from Rico's hand and struck the floor. Its lid opened. Cash bundles scattered. The ledgers slid beneath the workbench. The memory card sleeve skated across the concrete and stopped near the red shop rag, which had torn loose from the SUV's axle during the lurch. Miguel saw the card. So did Rafael. Rico released the driver and dove for it. Miguel moved first, not toward Leon, but away from the line of danger. He raised his empty hands and shouted, I'm done. Rico collided with the diagnostic cart, fell, and lost his weapon. Tomas kicked it away from him before dropping back to his knees. Officers entered only as far as needed to secure the immediate threats. Rico tried to rise and was restrained. Rafael stopped fighting when he saw 3 controlled lines of lawful authority, where he had expected chaos. Leon remained beside him until Dana Brooks crossed the threshold. She was older than the last time Leon had seen her in uniform, silver in her hair and command in her voice. She looked first at the office, confirming Isaiah, Mrs. Bell, and Thomas were alive. Then she looked at Leon. Family in the box? She asked. Leon nodded. Protected. Center clean. He looked at scattered cash, broken glass, frightened men, and the patch still lying near the lift where Raphael had dropped it during the struggle. Clean enough. Dana ordered medics forward. Officers secured Raphael, Miguel, Rico, Tomas, and Luis. The nervous driver was separated, treated, and placed under guard. No one celebrated. The garage remained a crime scene, and Leon remained a father whose son had spent an hour believing he might die. Isaiah came out of the office only after Dana said it was safe. He walked across the bay, stepped around evidence markers not yet placed, and stopped in front of Leon. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Isaiah wrapped both arms around him. Leon held his son and closed his eyes. The compressor cycled once more. This time, nobody flinched. The arrests inside Carter's garage were only the first layer. Dana had preserved the dispatch servers before Calvin Reed knew Leon's phrase had been recognized. Investigators found altered tow assignments, erased caller numbers, and suspicious vehicles routed to small shops. Calvin chose Carter's garage because he mistook Leon's quiet professionalism for blindness. The red shop rag became the link nobody could explain away. Its fibers matched rags in Calvin's dispatch locker, and fuel station camera fragments showed it tied on before the stage fault. Tow records connected the SUV to 3 other vehicles on the same freight yard corridor. The hard case, memory card, driver statement, and shop cameras exposed the local route. Leon and Isaiah became witnesses, and the law did the rest. Calvin was arrested before midnight while deleting messages from a second phone. The dark van had belonged to Dana's team, though investigators confirmed another crew was also searching for the marked SUV. Raphael's fear had been real. It had simply multiplied faster than his control. Thomas Avery recovered after a night under observation. Mrs. Bell had a bruised wrist. The nervous driver entered protective custody. Miguel began talking when he learned the ledger survived, while Rico blamed everyone else. Raphael said almost nothing after officers sealed the faded patch in an evidence bag. Dana returned it to Leon 3 weeks later. Carter's garage stayed closed while crews replaced glass, repaired the cabinet, and repainted the scar in the wall. Neighbors left food, notes, and donations Leon tried to return. Thomas Avery brought a new coffee maker and called the old one the real victim. A neighborhood video about the reopening spread under the title Cartel Enforcers mocked a black auto shop owner. One SWAT patch exposed his past. Leon disliked the attention, but Isaiah read every comment calling him brave. Leon finally explained that Captain Carter had led containment teams and rescued hostages, and that Mason Price had been his partner, friend, and deepest regret. Isaiah listened without turning the truth into a legend. "You saved us because of him?" Isaiah asked. Leon looked at the repaired bay. "I saved you because I remembered what losing him taught me." On reopening morning, Isaiah swept the corners without being told. Mrs. Bell balanced the books behind new glass. Thomas sat near the counter pretending his alternator needed another inspection. Leon unlocked the old office and removed Mason's unit coin from the drawer where it had spent 14 years. He framed the SWAT patch beside a photograph of the original garage crew. Beneath it, he set Mason's coin on a narrow wooden ledge. The display did not celebrate force. It honored restraint, memory, and the discipline to choose rescue over anger. Isaiah stood beside him. "You going to lock the office again?" Leon considered the question, then left the door open. Outside, engines came and went. Inside, tools clicked against metal, the compressor complained, and Carter's garage returned to the ordinary work that had always mattered most. Leon still watched doors. He still noticed mirrors, but Isaiah now understood that his father's silence had never been emptiness, and his calm had never been weakness. They mocked him because they saw a black mechanic they could break. By sunrise, Rafael Mendez understood that the old SWAT patch in Carter's garage was not a memory. It was a warning.